All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate y'all being here on this beautiful Friday, on this brutal Friday. And here we are. Yeah, we're still kicking, still pushing through, dealing with a sinus infection, blah. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of people have this sinus infection going on. A lot of people. But we're here. Well, hello. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I tell you what, I just can't get this light to work right. Either it's too bright, and then it'll look like I need a blood transfusion over here, and then it looks fine there. So I don't know. What are you gonna do? Anyway, yeah, it's crazy. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Let's get into the heart and the potatoes and meat and potatoes and fried chicken and mashed potatoes and corn and. Anyway, let's get into the heart of the show. It's going to be a good time. I want you to, Ms. Mercer, just send me enough information about KGRDB radio, or just let me know that. Well, thank you guys. Thank you. If you want to go to my website, it's very simple, bishopjameslong.com, bishopjameslong.com. And you can head on over there if you really are bored and you have nothing else better to do, or perhaps maybe you want something to put you to sleep. Got it. So, well, thank you guys. Thank you. So you can do that. Again, bishopjameslong.com. I want to remind everybody, thanks guys, that we have online classes. And the classes are free. And there's 4. They're very, very detailed courses. And so you learn demonology, genealogy, paranormal studies, and angelology. You learn at your own pace. It's 100% online, and it's free. So that's always a good price when it's free. You can just click on the class link, and if you really want to do that, that's it. BishopJamesLong.com. Click on the class link. There it is. If you want to go to the church's website, that's very simple. usocc.org. And just head on over there and visit us. We have, thank you guys, we have night prayer. I want to remind you, night prayer tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. We start around 9:50 p.m. the chat. And then we go live everywhere at 10 p.m. Eastern. Also, now, I want to remind everybody that, do me a favor, if you would please, consider going to usocc.org and click on that retreat button. We have a retreat in less than 2 weeks. And retreats are not cheap. And they're quite costly. Thank you guys. We have, quite a few people that's going to be in attendance, which is wonderful. But when you have, several people there, you have to make sure that everyone is comfortable and taken care of. So if you would, consider going to the usocc.org, click on the retreat button. And if you would like to make any donations, to the miscellaneous, it's a miscellaneous donations. Father Sean is always chatting about snacks, and well, we'll be presenting and certainly, making sure that people have snacks. So that can be expensive. So if you can, please go to usocc.org and click on the retreat button, and there it is. I want to say something because this is very important. A lot of people, for some, and I get the perception. I serve. I am a bishop of the Church, of the United States Old Catholic Church. I am not an exorcist who happens to be a priest. I am a priest whose one ministry is the office of exorcism, and that's important to understand because I think people maybe sometimes get that confused. A lot of people use the tagline "exorcist" to become famous or whatever in the paranormal, which is stupid because it's making a mockery of the ministry in of itself. This is one time a week out of the 7 days. Last I checked, there's 7 days in a week. This is only the one time in the week where we dedicate it to a paranormal show. One night a week. So I still get people making comments about, oh, you talk about that paranormal all the time. No, Einstein. If you're actually a follower of the platform, you'll know we have Compline night prayer every single night, Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sundays and Wednesdays, we have Bible study in which we dedicate more than 2 hours each time. And also on Saturdays, open mic, where we bring you guys up and chat with you guys, with the moderators. One night a week, we talk the paranormal. That's it. On Fridays. 2 hours a week. So I think, trolls on TikTok, I won't pay attention to you. We're adults, so we don't pay attention to adults who act like pestilent children who just want attention. You'll be ignored. I just don't pay attention to adults who behave like children at all. So, thinking that you're going to say something clever actually just makes you look like an ass clown, and you'll just be blocked. That's it. Okay. Plain and simple. So yeah, I just think that's important. And also, be blessed and be blocked. That's right. Be blessed and be blocked. Now we're not going to go sub chat only yet, but if it gets stupid, we will. Because we just don't put up with that type of nonsense here. We're just not interested. We're adults here. There's other Jerry Springer formats someplace else. Shoo. But I want to say something that's just really important, especially regarding demonology. Leave these cases alone. Leave them alone. There are a lot of you out there that are investigating these cases, and perhaps maybe you are there's well intent behind it. But if you truly have no idea what you're doing and you have not studied truly, I'm not talking about going on YouTube and studying demonology. If you have no formalized training in demonology, leave these places alone. You know what? And here's the deal. We're all adults here. And if you choose to ignore me and say, okay, whatever, fine, that's your choice. But then when all hell breaks loose in your home because you decide not to do this and not to take my advice, then don't call me and demand me to fix your problems. That's not how it works. You broke it. Thank you very much, Rock Angel. Seriously, you broke it. There are people that don't take demonology seriously. Demons are not stupid. Demons are far, far more intelligent than you and I. They are far more cunning than you and I can even imagine. Their goal is to completely and utterly destroy everything that you love, destroy your relationship completely with God, remove you from the grace of God. And that is their ultimate goal, is total destruction. And if you think for 5 seconds that you or anybody just thinks that you're going to walk into a demonic case and take it lightly and say, well, we're going to get some great information for social media, mark my words, you will pay a very heavy price. You may not pay a price today, and you may not pay the price tomorrow, but I swear as God is my witness, you will be giving me a call one day. I'm telling you now, I have seen it time and time and time again. I just got off the phone before I came alive with a paranormal group that I told, do not go to a particular location that is known to be demonic. They had heard me talk about this location many times. They chose to do it anyway. Now they are having extreme violent activity within their home, and they have children. This activity is incredibly violent, and they're begging me now to go to their home, and I'm telling them, no, I can't. Number one, I am sick. I have a sinus infection. I am not feeling well. I am not walking into a demonic case if I am physically not 100%. Not going to happen. I'm not putting myself in a position where I could get hurt as well as putting other people in position. It's not happening. Number two, I have a church retreat coming in just less than 2 weeks. So they will have to find a clergy member in their area who is willing to take on a legitimate violent demonic case because they chose to once again ignore clergy's attention. I get to a point where I get tired of telling people this because they want to go on social media. They want to get the views, and they do. They do. And when they get the views and it's all exciting and it's all fun, and when the lights go off and the cameras go out and then all hell breaks loose in their home, they realize they have paid a very heavy price for getting those social media views. Congratulations, you did. And people say that all the time, well, I just want to see it. I just want to see it. I want to experience it. And when you do, you are now marked. I don't understand people. I don't get it. Honest to God, I don't get it. So this team is begging me to stop everything that I'm doing to go to their home, which is 2 hours away, and to help them. I can't do it right now. I can't. And I've said it multiple times, stay away from this location. And yet, what do? They went out, they invited, is anybody here? I dare you to do something. And all hell has broken loose in their home. And now they are terrified. You broke it. Stop messing with this. I've told you all, I don't give a damn about celebrity status. I don't give a damn about how many followers I got. I don't care about any of the television shows. I don't care about any of that stuff. That is meaningless. It's completely meaningless. I don't do it for fame. I've never charged a dime in my life. Never. I pay for it out of my own pocket to get to people's homes, to the point of even making $15,000 in debt to get to people's homes. I'm not doing this for giggles. I'm doing this because I know that demon activity exists. I'm doing this because I know possession exists. And I don't care if you believe it or not. I don't care. I'm not here to prove to you that demons exist. I'm here to help the families who know they do. But people have got to stop this bullshit of going to locations, putting themselves in danger, and then demanding that clergy put their lives in danger by helping them because they decided that they needed a little bit of a hayride. Woo, let's go do this for social media fun. This has got to stop. This is not a game. And if you think it is, then the devil has already beaten you. So if it appears that I'm frustrated, I am, because I deal with this all the time. And then when I tell people I can't help you right now, I get cussed out and called all kinds of names but my name because they expect me to stop what I'm doing and run to them because they're the ones that screwed it up. Well, leave it alone. This is not game. I don't care. And again, Jake, some jackass, of course, in TikTok. If you can't be a normal human being, then go away. What's wrong? My spirit irritates your demons? Is that what it is? It's ridiculous. I know Bill very well. I know Bill. And Bill charges. This family's not going to be able to pay. And look, I'm not a Bill saying, look, you want my time? I charge. That's his right. But this family can't afford anything. So it is frustrating because as clergy, I want to help people. But I get frustrated when I see people purposely put themselves in this type of position. And then they expect clergy to come rushing in like Superman, putting ourselves in danger to fix their mistake when they knew darn well that what they were doing was wrong. So I don't know how much more I can impress on you to leave this alone. For 25 years, I've been teaching, stay away from this stuff. Now, I'm not going out in graveyards chasing ghosts. I'm not going out into these locations chasing something that I should stay away from. So I understand what it means to get involved in this type of stuff. And I have willingly accepted the consequences of being involved in a ministry that I know is very dangerous, even to the point where I myself was under attack. And remember, friends, I was 425 pounds. I was taking on cases after cases after cases, and I was dying. The demonic was using every weakness that I had, which was sweets. If I was sad, I went to sweets. If I was happy, I went to sweet. If I was depressed, if I was overwhelmed, if the ministry was too much, I went to sweets and sweets and sweets and sweets. That's what I did. And when I did Exorcism Live on the Travel Channel, when I blessed the house in St. Louis, I was 425 pounds. Could barely walk up the stairs. This is how the demons, they're very manipulative, very conniving, and not stupid. Your life will fall apart. You will lose your job. You will lose everything that you cherish if you keep messing with this stuff. We have a show tonight that I want you to really listen to very carefully. And this is, it's the Enfield House. The story begins in the small, quiet town of Enfield, Connecticut during the 1970s. It was there in an otherwise ordinary suburban home that an ordinary family became the center of a sinister series of unexplained phenomena. The story of the demon house begins with the Parker family, who experienced eerie and unexplainable occurrences soon after moving into their seemingly unremarkable home. Now, what started off as a subtle and odd disturbances soon escalated into full-fledged paranormal nightmare. This is a true story. And I have a special guest on tonight. We're going to speak to him in just a second. The family members report objects moving on their own, disembodied voices, pervasive feeling of being watched. It wasn't long before the same entities that made noises began to physically interact with the family, leaving them terrified for their safety. Among the most unsettling events were sightings of shadowy figures lurking in the corners, dark apparitions that seemed to glide silently through the house, only to vanish when approached. The spirits appeared most active at night, creating a sense of dread that left the family in a state of constant anxiety. Seeking a resolution to their plight, the family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren. I did not know Ed. I was friends with Lorraine. They were renowned paranormal investigators known for their work on other infamous cases like the Amityville Horror and the Perrin family haunting. When the Warrens arrived, they immediately sensed a malevolent presence within their home. Lorraine, a clairvoyant medium, identified the presence of demonic forces within the residence. The Warrens conducted multiple investigations. Their attempts included both spiritual interventions and meticulous documentation of paranormal activity. And they reported witnessing firsthand seemingly impossible phenomena such as unexplainable bent spoons, heavy furniture moving across the floors on its own. During their investigation, Ed and Lorraine also hinted at the possibility of an ancient curse or ritual that might have been performed on the land long before the house was ever even built. Despite their intervention, many of the activities continued unabated, affecting family members and even visitors to the home. Now, the stress of these encounters took a toll on the Parker family, affecting their lives. And ultimately, the Parker family decided to leave the home in hopes of escaping the relentless haunting. The Enfield Demon House remains an enigmatic page in Connecticut's haunting history. To this day, the house is still the object and subject of much fascination and debate among paranormal enthusiasts, with many wondering about the true nature of the dark forces that seem to dwell within its walls. And this case continues to serve as a chilling reminder of how the supernatural can upend and unsettle even the most ordinary of our lives. Perfect material for those who seek out the thrill and intrigue of the unknown. The Demon House of Enfield stands as a testament to the enduring allure and mystery of the paranormal. Tonight, we have a very special guest on. We have Jay, who is the father of the owner of the Mackenzie, who owns the Enfield House. And Jay's going to come on and he's going to tell us a little bit about this house and its history. So, Jay, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Bishop Long. I think the stories with the Parker, I think those are the ones in England.
Oh yeah, that's the Parker House in England. Yes, yeah. You guys are in Connecticut now. Was Ed and Lorraine involved with you guys or no?
Well, here's what happened. There was an investigation early on, and it involved a local Connecticut company, and they were actually good friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, Ed had already passed. Now, there were some discrepancies that you might hear out there, but here's what really happened. During the investigation that night that they had, where it picked up a 250-pound woman, threw her 8 feet down the hall, they had called Lorraine, and Lorraine answered, and very smart woman, very intelligent. They had her on speakerphone, and she asked what was going on. They said, they had scratching, they had levitation, and she said, you're leaving something out. And so Orlando, who was the gentleman's partner that was in the house, he said, Lorraine, he goes, it picked up a 250-pound woman, threw her 8 feet down the hall. Lorraine paused and said, I am so sorry. She goes, I cannot come out to that house ever. Until the day she died, she never put one foot in the house. And so that was one story. That's how she was kind of tied in here. Now, we talked to her many times over the phone. She gave us her phone number and told us to do some things. But she would, because of what was happening, and I think it was because of her age, we believe she refused to come out to the house. And a few years later, she passed.
Yeah, and certainly when you have something like this, when you have, with her age and certainly advanced in her age, taking on demonic cases, it's just too dangerous. It's just way too dangerous. So let's talk about this house. Let's talk about the Enfield House there in Connecticut, and how in the world did you get involved in this house?
All right. How long do we have, Bishop Long? I can talk.
Now it sounds like you weren't as clear earlier before we went on air. I don't know if you're still on speakerphone or.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, it's a million times better. A million times. There we go. So, we have about roughly 45 minutes or so. So,
okay.
What year was the house purchased?
We bought the house in 2006. Okay. And what we were looking for a home. My wife was 6 months pregnant with the twin girls. And I'm going to give you a short version because there's so much information I want to give you and to let people know how dangerous the paranormal field is. We knew nothing about the paranormal. Every once in a while, we would watch that TV show called Ghost Hunters when it first came on. We just laughed and said, okay, yeah, this is just Hollywood. Well, anyhow, where I was working, the lady was telling me about her husband. He wanted to liquidate a bunch of properties. He wanted to start up a large car dealership. So we came out, we took a look at it, and he did a lot of work. And every time we came back, he gave us the keys, and he sweetened the deal. And then he finally said, listen, guys, he goes, I put brand new boilers in, brand new roof, brand new everything. All you guys have to do is sheetrock everything. And so we were like, yeah, I know, I'm already working, 65, 70 hours a week. I said, I got babies coming. I said, I'm not Superman. So he said, you know what? At the height of the real estate market, houses, going, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. He goes, how about this? He goes, my wife told me to take care of you. He goes, I'll let you have it for 165. Now it's a duplex, right? So my wife's like, no. And I'm like, but Elka, I said, even if we just use this as a rental property, I said, you can't get a house for 165. So make a long story short, we ended up buying it. Mm-hmm. And it was a worst mistake ever because I come from a military family and a military background, and I also come from a religious background. I grew up a Catholic in the military. I was Protestant and Baptist and everything. So I have a firm believer in Jesus Christ and God, and but I had no idea what was in store for me when we came in the house. And the warning signs were there. I mean, if we believed in paranormal and things like that, it was right there. I mean, the first weekend we were supposed to move, it rained so bad that we had to cancel everybody. Then the second week, we were where we were staying. We were living at my father's house in Westfield. We were supposed to move. He had another renter moving in, and my uncle died. It was a weekend of his funeral, and we couldn't even go because we had to move.
Huh.
So when we moved in, and Elka was 7 months pregnant, all heck started breaking loose. It didn't take long for this stuff to happen, but I was searching for a logical explanation. You know, here's my wife. She's 7 months pregnant. We just moved in the house. She's still trying to work. She's working for a doctor's office. She was a nurse. I'm working, and all of a sudden, you know, they finally put on bed rest, and this is where things start going crazy. I get a call at my office, Jay, come home now, right now, and I come flying home because, you know, Springfield, Mass is only like about 10 minutes away. So I come running in the door, and the very first thing she tells me is there's this gigantic black dog roaming through the house. Now, when I mean gigantic, I'm looking for a German Shepherd on steroids.
Right.
And I'm looking around, and there's nothing there. And then it starts out with things disappearing, things reappearing. You know, you come home, you put your wallet on the table, it would disappear and reappear someplace else in the house. So this went on for some time, and then the babies were born. I'm going to skip through a lot because we only got 45 minutes, and there's so much in the house I get to you. So the babies came, and so the very first night, you know, I was home alone. I came in the house felt energized, and I was like, you know what, being someone who has a educated background, I'm like, okay, it's separation anxiety. You know what, you're home, you're alone, you just had babies, but it was different. So I left all, you know, here I am, right? You know, everything I did in the military like that. And here I am, I'm afraid to be in my own house. I leave all the lights on. I go upstairs. I got my dogs. I turn the TV on. I'm tossing and turning. At about around 3:30 in the morning, the way my bed was sitting, I see this big white light shoot down the stairs. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a car, you know, it's reflecting off the wall somehow. And another 15 minutes later, another big ball light shoots down the stairs. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I just get up there thinking to myself, hey, if anybody's up there, listen, I bought the house. It's not vacant anymore. However you got in here, get out, right? And I'm laughing to myself. A few weeks later go by. Elka sends me upstairs to look for some boxes. And that's why I noticed, I'm like, you know what? There's no way a external light can reflect because there was boxes blocking all the windows. So whatever those lights came down, they had to originate from the attic. So as that started happening, what started to transpire was, as I'm working now, my wife's home on bed rest. The babies come home; they were born premature, and I get another call from the office. Jay, get home right now. So I come flying home. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, I hate this house. I hate it. She goes, all the baby toys. She goes, how was that possible? All the baby's toys turned on all at one time. Now, they don't have speakers, and they kept getting louder and louder and louder. So she finally jumped up and down and said, stop it, stop it. And they all shut off. And I'm looking around, and you know, I don't have an explanation. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I said, are you really sure? And she says, I'm telling you what's happening. So it started targeting almost like one person, and it would happen again. Now, when I was home, I would have my own experiences, but they weren't that graphic yet. When I say yet, it's coming. So I'm home, and I'm working not only a full-time job, watching the babies. Now my wife goes back to work, and now she's teaching nights. She's teaching nursing for this private school. And now I hire a babysitter because I'm trying to renovate the renter side. And now I got stuff happening, right? Now I got I actually have a drill that almost killed me. It came up and it went on auto, and it came up and nicked my neck. And I heard this entity or this voice laughing. And I got up. I said, I bought this house. I said, you're dead. You leave. I said, accept Christ as your Savior and be gone. And it just kept laughing and laughing. So I finally said, you know what? I'm done for tonight. I shut off the lights. I came back over here, you know, checked on the kids. The babysitter left. And then my wife came home and she says, what are you trying to light up the neighborhood? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, because she goes, all the lights are on next door. I'm like, they can't be. I shut them all off. I said, there's no way. So, and that started happening on a regular basis. So as time started moving in, we're heading into 2007. And so now he ended up in a hospital. They thought she was going to die. Her blood pressure went straight through the roof. Everything started going wrong. We had to admit her in the hospital. And I decided now I got to tell her that, you know what? I think we might have a ghost in the house. You know, I didn't, you know, I had no idea what to tell her because she's probably going to think I needed my head examined. So I pick her up. I said, okay, let's go out to eat. I said, I have something extremely important to tell you. And she looked at me like, what are you going to tell me? And I took her to the diner and I said, okay, I'm just going to say it. You know, I said, you're already put up with me for my military antics and all that stuff when I came home. But I said, I think the house is haunted. Now, I was waiting for her to say, you know what, I can't deal with this anymore, right? She said, you too. She goes, oh my God. She goes, I pray that you don't go to work every day. She goes, I feel like I'm being watched. She goes, things are around. She goes, shadows are moving and all kinds of things. So I said, you know what? The best thing we can do is, call up a local priest, have them do a house blessing. And I said,
let's hold on.
Whatever's in the house is going to leave.
Jay, hold on one second. So there's a lot of people who are asking about what we're doing here. We're speaking to Jay, who is, of course, he's one of the owners. I believe you're of the Enfield House. Now, there's two different Enfield House. The bio that most of you are familiar with are the one in England. That's the one that I read that most of you are familiar with. That's not the Enfield House that we are referring to tonight. The Enfield House that we're talking about, this actually, it was, if I'm correct, it was featured on Animal Planet's The Haunted and Sci-Fi's The Haunted Collector. And the house is pretty old. It's over 200 years old. Now, there has been over 25 deaths, ranging from unalivings. We can't say the S word because TikTok won't allow us. Accidents and sickness. So there were unalivings. Countless, paranormal teams investigating, mediums, priests, shamans, even a bishop. And so this is the case that's in Connecticut. So there's a difference between the Enfield House in England and the Enfield House in Connecticut that Jay is speaking about. And so this is this is frightening stuff what they experience. So you purchased this house. Do you know a whole lot about its history or not? Not really. And you just kind of purchased it because it was a good deal. It was a smart buy. You're having this paranormal activity occurring. And now you're like, okay, we need to get something involved. Someone needs to get involved in helping. Is this correct?
That's correct. We had no idea of the history. Well, we knew it was a good deal. We thought a friend of ours was offering us a really good deal.
And so as soon as you purchased the house, how soon did the paranormal start? Was it immediate?
Well, as we look back, it was. What we thought was an accident. As we came here, we came with two vehicles because my wife came here and I met her here. I had another vehicle and she pulled in the front of the house. I pulled in the driveway and the owner had given us keys. So we looked around the house and this is when we made the decision. She goes, can you really do it? You're working hours, baby's coming. She goes, you're not Superman. I said, yeah, I can get it done. So what happened was she said, okay. She said, then fine, we'll do it. Now, as soon as we said that, as we were walking out the door, She turns around and says, Jay, I'm going to go back and make sure the door is locked. I don't want to leave the house unlocked. So she goes back and checks it. Then all of a sudden I hear this loud scream. Now, as I do, I'm over by my vehicle. I look over and I see her hands go flying behind her back. Now, because of my background and what I was training, I realized right away, I said, she's not falling. Somebody shoved her. Because, I can trip you 1,000 times, Bishop. Your hands are going to go in front of you. When somebody pushes you from behind, your arms are going to go behind you. And her arms went flying behind her like somebody, you could almost see like where somebody hit her right in the center of the back. Now, I'm running over, not thinking anything. I'm saying, oh, my God, I got to save the babies. I got to save Elka. And luckily, there was like a guardian angel, because how she fell, she literally rolled almost like in a martial arts, so perfectly on her arm and her shoulder. And we rushed her to the hospital, and the babies and everybody were fine. And she kept saying, I fell. I think I fell. But she goes, Jay, I think I was pushed.
Oh,
but she goes, that makes no sense.
Wow.
And I said, nothing's making any sense here. So then, again, because of what I used to do, I started to interrogate her. Now, I always thought, like what we were taught, divide and conquer, right? And this is what the entity was doing, dividing us and conquering.
That's it.
Trying to conquer us.
Yeah.
So what happened is, I'm asking her, who did you give the keys to the house? She's like, nobody. I said, somebody's got keys to the house. And she kept saying, I changed the locks 3 or 4 times. Now, I feel like, Bishop Long, I'm going crazy, right?
Right.
I'm going out. I'm looking in the basement. I'm burning paper. I'm looking for drafts. I'm thinking there might be hidden tunnels, because none of this is adding up, right? None of this makes any sense. So now we decide, like I was saying, we decide to call up the local church. And as I'm looking out the door, I said, oh my God, I said, he must be walking. And I see the gentleman's name was Father John. He's walking down, and I meet him in the street. And I said, hi. I said, I'm Jay Apel. And he goes, I'm Father John so-and-so. And so he's like, how's things going? I said, well, Father, I said, you know what? Of course, I'm not going to admit that I'm having a problem. I said, my wife thinks there's something in the house. And he's like, what? A bird, a chipmunk, a squirrel? I said, no. I said, like a ghost, like, woo, He stopped. And he said, Jay, there's no such thing as ghosts and demons. That's Hollywood. That was created to scare people. He goes, and I'm going to prove it to you. I'm like, go right ahead. So he comes in, and he blesses our side of the house. He throws holy water around. He goes in the basement, and he goes upstairs, and he even goes on our side of the attic. Now, at that time, everything was self-contained into 2 units. It's a duplex. So he goes next door. And he said, oh, my God. He goes, I love this smell of fresh construction, because I got table saw set up there. I get everything going. And he said, we go upstairs, and he said, see, Jay, there is nothing here. I said, well, Father, there's one more spot you got to go into. And I said, that's the attic. Now, the attic door, Bishop Long, was really strange. It had about 8 to 10 different types of locks, and from deadbolts to key locks to this and that. And we couldn't figure out what people were trying to keep out or in. So he opens up the door, and he's confident, and he takes 3 steps up, and he freezes. And you could see the look on his face. He goes to take one more step up, and he says, Jay, as he's talking to me, he's not even looking at me. He says, I'm just going to throw holy water down on the staircase. As he does that, he backs out. He never turns his back. Whatever he saw scared him so bad that he backed out. He slammed the door, boom, 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 locked other things, and he runs. Boom. I'm chasing this guy. I'm like, oh, my God. I said, this guy can really, really haul. So I get him over by the door. He's got 1 foot inside the house, 1 foot outside. And he says, ignore it. It will go away. He takes off. I never see him again.
Wow. Now, wait. Isn't it amazing? I don't understand this. I don't get it. You have clergy that's even today that will say that demons don't exist. I guess Jesus was cosplaying, because this was a very important ministry that Jesus did. There are 58 Bible verses about exorcisms, 58. It was important, so much so that Jesus established this ministry to his disciples in casting out demons. I find it appalling that clergy today will tell people there are no such thing as demons. So you're calling Jesus a liar. I mean, ultimately, anybody who says that, you're saying Jesus has made it up as a cosplay kind of a thing. That to me that drives me absolutely insane. Now, I get it. There are some clergy. There are many clergy. They don't want to get involved in demonology. I understand that 100% because it's a special calling. I get it. Totally understand. But if you're not called to do this ministry, that's one thing. But to go around telling people there's no such thing as demons, and yet you read scripture and Jesus is casting out demons. So what is that? I mean, you really are diminishing Jesus's ministry to zero, that he's just a cosplayer going around and, not knowing the difference between someone who's mentally ill versus someone who is possessed. I think he's the Son of God. I think he would know the difference. So this priest then runs out and obviously is terrified, saw something. And then what happens next?
So now what happens next is, now we go, Easter came up and stuff, came back, and we went out to Easter and came back. And now all of a sudden, this is where we knew this ain't Casper. Now we know, because I came home and, like, being a good husband, I go out to the kitchen. I'm going to finish, like, the little dishes that Elka had, from the baby bottles and everything. Elka had put the babies in the little rocker, and we had our dogs here. And Elka's like, "Are you deaf?" She goes, "Did you really lose all your hearing overseas?" I'm like, "What?" I said, I'm running the water. She goes, "Jay," she goes, "something is trying to either get in the house or get out of the house." Now the babies all simultaneously, they're crying. The dogs are barking and whining, and I just catch the tail end of this rapping sound on the door. So now, my heart goes up. I go in full alert, and I'm like, "What's going on?" She goes, "Something was clawing." I can't tell, Jay, if something was trying to get in or out, and it's rapping. I said, "I hear that." So I look out the window. I don't see anything. So she goes, "Don't open the door." So I open the door, the way I was taught, and I got my foot there. I'm waiting, and I look up and down. There's there's nobody there.
Wow.
Now I can't figure out what is going on. So she's like, "What are we going to do?" She goes, "We just bought the house. We sunk all the money in it." So I look on the yellow pages. I'm looking around. I'm going on. I'm thinking, back then there wasn't that many paranormal teams. So we had called up one that was that was nearby, that was in a different town. And they came out. It was 2 college police officers and some other people. Now, at that time, my sister was still alive, and she was over here. And I had this giant, like, banana plant in the corner, right? And in the dining room, we had this little tea light party, like bird cage. When you walk, it would swing back and forth. So the girls went in the living room talking about things. Now, that paranormal team that had psychics, Reikis, all these people were yelling, "Get over here, guys, get over here." And they're yelling, "Get over here." Well, what happened was they all witnessed, 5 people witnessed this giant banana plant slide 6 feet across the floor. Yeah, and this thing's heavy, and it just slides right across the floor. While they were in the dining room talking to me, they got their notebooks out, right? And all of a sudden, they're looking at the bird cage, and they're like, "Look at this." I said, "Oh, that thing just moves with vibration." They're saying, "No, it's bouncing up and down like somebody's taking it and trying to take it off the hook." So they get all the evidence. They're like, "Okay, we'll be in contact." And to make a long story short, they never came back. They're like, whatever they experienced in the house, it was too much for them.
Yeah.
So as this is happening, this entity is getting bolder and bolder, and it's doing more and more things. So now it's starting to show itself. My wife calls me up again from at the office and says, "Get home now." So I come home, and she's literally shaken. Now, she was all happy that day. She goes in a basement. She throws clothes in a dryer, gets it going. She goes over to get the baby formula. She turns around, and the dryer door opens up. Now, dryer doors are hard to open, and they're latched. So now this thing opens up, the clothes come out, and, that would be scary enough. But then all of a sudden, she turns her head, and she sees right in front of the boilers this black shadow. Now, I know what she's talking about because I've seen it. It's darker than night. When I say things, when you see these entities, and when you say it's dark, now you could take this entity in pitch black, and you could identify it because it's darker than dark. And this thing was solid black. So she dropped the baby former, screamed, ran up, called me up. I come back, and now I clear the house again. I go room by room by room, you know, and it's scary because you don't know if there is somebody in the house. So you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I said, there's nobody in the house. She goes, Jay, it was dark. She goes, it wasn't human. So as we're going through this, I said, well, what are we going to do? So I had put a call in to that team I told you about who we didn't know actually worked with Lorraine Warren. Now, this is where it gets bad. Now, like I heard you talking about how bad the demonic is.
Mm.
So here's what happened. Here's a guy. These two guys have been best friends since the late 80s and 90s. They had a team, and they were experienced. They were very experienced. They went on cases with Ed and Lorraine. They knew what they were doing. Well, during this investigation at night, this gentleman, his name is Orlando. I'm not going to mention his last name. Super great guy. He's the reason why he's not in the field no more is because of his house. He made the worst decision of his life. He got so mad because he had these amplifying headphones on, and he said to this entity, because this entity was making all kinds of noise, he said, stop picking on women and children and Jay, and I'm not going to say it, but he said to take him on.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody froze, and his partner's like, what did you just say? He goes, I screwed up, didn't I? He said, well, people say things like that all the time and nothing happens to them. It waited a year. Yep. And it went into his life. It terrorized him so bad that he literally called us up, and he begged to come back. I'm like, why are you begging to come back? I said, we're not mad at you. He goes, he comes in a house, and it was like a scene from that movie Platoon where the guy throws his hands up in the air. And that's what happened. He comes in, he drops on his knees, he throws his hands up in the air, and he begs. He begs for mercy. He begs his entity, please stop. And now here's a grown man, in his 40s, begging for mercy from this entity because it's destroying his life.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in real quick. This is important, and this is brilliant, and I am so happy that you're talking about this. But again, for those of you just joining us, talking about Jay, who owns the Enfield Demon House. It's in Connecticut, and this place is, look what they've experienced. Now, look, a lot of times, paranormal investigators and including clergy, when they get into a case, that I work with paranormal teams who, because I don't have my private jet, I haven't won the lottery, so I can't fly to all these places. I just can't. So I rely on paranormal teams who understand that getting involved in these cases is dangerous, and they're willing to do this and work and help the church and help the family. So they go to homes, they investigate, and they're fully aware that there are consequences that get involved with doing this. What happens many times is teams that are not as advanced in demonology will go to a location, and even clergy, and they will realize they're in over their head. And when they realize this, they become frustrated, agitated, and they make mistakes like, I dare you, just do something to me. Because when someone does this, that they're already giving up and surrendering all their power, because they are at a point of complete and total exhaustion and frustration. And many times that happens, and that's exactly what demons will do. They are very conniving. They will wait, and they will tempt, and they will use everything, all your strengths and weaknesses against you. And what happens many times is people will get frustrated, clergy will get frustrated, and just say, just do something to me. Invitation. That's it. And that's when you're in over your head. And that's when you've got to before you do that, you need to take a step back and say, okay, I'm about to slip up. I need to call somebody else in here who's in more advanced in this, because that's actually smart and that's the right thing to do. Now, so this guy goes to this place and is begging to be released from this oppression, demonic oppression. Unfortunately, what he's done is completely surrendered his entire will to the demonic's will. That is not how you defeat this. Number one, you defeat it through the sacrament of reconciliation. And that you must have the sacraments of the church. You're not going, the demons aren't going to feel compassionate. They're not going to say, oh, I'm so sorry. We apologize. We'll give you some respite. No, actually, they will double down. Yep. Because now that your will is being broken, and now they don't see you as a poor victim. Now they see you as, okay, good. Now you're the prey. And so it's a total surrender. So what this person has done has now admitted that he has been defeated. His will has been defeated, and he is begging for mercy from a being that will never grant him mercy under any circumstances. All right, so what happens?
So now he says that he leaves. So now the other guy, I can't mention his name because of things that happen. He does almost the same thing. He yells out, take him on, right?
Wow.
Take him on, right? Meaning himself. And he says, and he came back. He was doing some lectures here. I can't mention his name because of some things that happened.
Yeah.
But he said, look at me, nothing happens. Now, I didn't see him for almost 17 years. And then last year he comes up and he's like, I like to do some lectures at the house and things like that. So, because we turned the renter side into a 1920s thing where we talk about the dangers of paranormal and we let people rent it out to investigate. Now what happens is he shows up and he says, guys, man, I'm done. He says, I got 30% of my heart, my liver's shot. This is happening. That's happening. And me and my wife looked at him and we're like, nothing happened to you. And he says, you know what? I can't say it came from your house. But he says, you know what? It's kind of weird that after I was at your house for those 3 times that I got all this. So we were like, wow. And he doesn't investigate no more. He just lectures. But you can see he's shocked, you know. And so let me get back to things. So after that, we ended up looking. We're like, we got to find somebody. We got to find somebody who does heavy hitting. So we find this guy. I tell you, this guy's a true ultimate paranormal warrior. And too bad he doesn't do it no more. His name was Bob Baker. So I had called him up. He said that he worked with the clergy, everything. So as I can talk, we talked for almost 2 hours. He says, my God, if that is for real, what you're telling me, I go, I will not put one foot in the house unless if there's a member of the clergy. So he gets a hold of one of the guys, you know, and I think you know who he is. His name is Father Bob Bailey.
Oh, yeah, Bob. Yep.
And Father Bob comes up with him, and
great guy.
They're going to the house, and Father Bob, now don't forget, this is like 2008, you know, it's like paranormal state for him. And then all of a sudden he realizes this is no joke. It takes his rosaries. He had these really expensive rosaries that he had put down. It takes his rosaries. So everybody's looking for his rosaries. He starts walking to it. He's checked all his pockets and he's walking to us. And all of a sudden he stops. And it was like a scene from a Clint Eastwood movie. He just froze and he looked down and he said to Bob, he says, I felt something slide the rosaries into my pocket. And there they were hanging out of his pocket.
Wow.
Now he realized this is no fun and games. Now he gets serious. And then on Animal Planet, he came back to do the show on Animal Planet. So now after that, Bob says, you know what? I got one more got my sleeve. He goes, he's one miracle away from being canonized as a saint. His name is Father Robert McKenna. He goes, oh, actually, Bishop Robert McKenna. Yeah. So now listen to this, Bishop Long, right? Talking about how really dangerous this entity was. Bob asked us to take off the day to meet Bishop here and get all his little snacks and everything. So he called up the bishop from the house. He's got a speakerphone. He said, Bishop, I got a severe case for you. And he says, Bob, I'm sorry. I just retired. And Bob said, Father, it involves children. He goes, oh, what the heck? He goes, one more case, right, Bob? He goes, I'm back in the fight. He goes, we got to help out the little ones. So he gets in. We set up a time, everything. We're home. Bob calls up. He goes, I'm 15 minutes away. from the bishop's residence. He goes, "Are you guys home?" You got all the snacks. And he says, "Jay," he goes, "you know what this means?" He goes, what I'm really doing for you guys. He goes, "I have to ride with the bishop all the way to your house, about an hour and a half, an hour and a half back, talking about Jesus and God and everything, and how I got to be a better person, right?" And I said, "Bob, I appreciate it." 5 minutes later, he's 5 minutes away from the bishop's house. The bishop's secretary, though, the one at the house, calls up Bob and said, "Mr. Baker, the bishop wrote on a piece of paper he just got struck with a mouth infection and can't speak.
Wow.
But he's not giving up in case if this came from the Enfield House. So he says, we're not going to tell them when we're coming back." So 3 months later, I hear a knock on the door, a little faint knock. And I'm like, who is this? So I open the door, and there he is, Bishop Robert McKenna. And he says, "Tell me what's going on." He goes, "Okay." He stops, and he looks in the corner. He goes, "I haven't even started with you little buggers yet." And that's how he would say things. He was a really sweet guy. And through the whole course of things, he went to the house. He re-baptized the babies over the kitchen table, so he knew they were baptized the right way. And as he's doing this, he asked if we needed anything blessed. And we're like, "Sure." Now, everybody's standing around my big dining room table, and he goes to pick up his holy water and blesses the cross and things, the little things that we need. He puts it down. He goes to turn a page in his little prayer book. He goes to pick up his holy water. It's gone. In front of everybody, it dematerialized. And I'm telling you, when I saw that, I was like, "Oh my God, this is real." I mean, it dematerialized in front of everybody, and nobody saw it move, nothing. So Bob just goes into panic mode. He's just grabbing everything on the table, picking things up. They're looking underneath the table, everything. And as they pick up the bishop's briefcase, there's this little bottle of holy water. And the bishop's like, "Okay." He goes, "You little buggers." He goes, "Want to play games?" He goes, "Okay, I'm not done with you guys yet." So he goes through the whole house and he blesses everything. And so he says, there's two things that are going to happen. He says, one is what we want. He goes, one is we want this, whatever this thing is, to leave, to go away and never come back. That's what our job is. The bad thing, he says, it can leave. And at any time, it can come back. And if it comes back, it can bring friends. And if it brings friends, it's going to be a lot worse. So we had peace for almost 2 weeks. It felt awesome. I mean, it just felt great. The house felt light.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, it started out very subtle. It was testing us, and then it just ramped up. So Bob came over, and that's when Bob said, "You know what? I'm getting." He was getting worn out. He says, "I've done everything I can do." He goes, "I'm not giving up on you guys." He goes, "You know what?" He goes, "I have all these TV shows knocking on my door." He goes, "Why don't you guys start doing TV shows?" He goes, "Someone out there is going to know what this is and how to take care of it."
Okay. So
he sent in the Animal Planet, had started up a new show. We did that. John Zappis, great guy. John called him and said, "Hey, listen, I want to try to help out Jay and Ilka, but," he goes, "I'm under a contract with my show. What do you think?" So he contacted us. We were like, "Okay." And then the last show we did, and that's just how we got some help, was we did on the Discovery. They had resurrected the old haunting show.
Right. Yep.
And they wanted to come out. And about a year after that, we had gotten a phone call and said, "Hey, I know two people that want to come out to the house, Reverend Neil Farley and Jay Dodd, and they had special gifts." So now it came with a price, Bishop Long. It's like I'm saying, this is no joke. This is no like running into an empty building and going, "Look, there's a ghost."
What do you mean a price? What do you mean?
Well, Jay Dodd nearly died.
Wow.
Yeah, it came at him before he even got here. And when he was here, they said prayers, they did everything. And when he left, at the time, my daughter Courtney would call him up and say, "Mr. Dodd, I'm scared," and he would talk to her. So this one day, she called up and said, "Mr. Dodd, I'm scared." He goes, "Courtney," he goes, "can you put your dad on the phone?" I said, "Is everything okay, Jay?" He says, "Well, I can't help you guys no more." He says, "Here's what happened." He says, "Now here's a guy who was healthy. He was Indiana highway patrolman. At one time, he was a state trooper, and this guy's a well-educated guy. So he ends up having a massive heart attack. Right now, before this happens, this entity goes to him and it says to him, "Get out of the field. Stop doing this." And he says, "I am a man of God. Get behind these, Satan." And he goes, "Get away." And the entity says to him, he goes, "Do you know who I am?" And he goes, "Get away." He said, "I'll show you." A week later, he has a series of heart attacks, and he died several times. And they brought him back, and he's in the hospital. And he said to me, I mean, there's different versions of the story. I want to make sure I get the accuracy. He told me, as he opened his eyes, here's this entity sitting on his bed. And the entity says, "Now do you know who I am?" So he basically, I don't know what happened. He said, I don't know if he made a deal or whatever, but he said that he got out of the field. And if he got out of the field and everything, the deal was that this entity was supposed to leave us alone. So we had peace for almost a year and a half, and I was in a severe car accident that left me disabled. And I had opened up the downstairs into a single-family home. So my realtor got her husband over and helped me convert it to a duplex, and we wanted a long-term renter. Well, this lady was on Section 8, and within 6 months, she was begging to get out of next door. She was begging to get out of the contract and everything. So the state said, "Don't let her out. If you do, we may not use you anymore as a rental property." So the day that her contract was up, there was a moving truck out here, and so many people came in, they got her out. So Bob said, "Do not go next door. Whatever you do, do not go next door." He flew all the way from, flew him. He drove like a maniac to get out here from Shelton, Connecticut, out here. And he says, "Don't go next door." He goes, "If this thing came back, it could be waiting for you." He goes, "Let's look for signs." So he went next door, and he says, "My God, she was terrified of something." I'm like, "How do you know?" He goes, "Look it. She took black ash, and she made the sign of the cross over every door, every window." He goes, "She was trying to protect herself from something." He goes, "Oh boy." And that was our biggest fear, is like, is this entity coming back? So over the course, of a year or so, we were like on the edge of our seat, because we were praying to God that this thing doesn't come back, because it was vicious. Then like little things happened, but this entity never came back. What seemed to be coming back what seemed to be opening up was the human. Well, I can't say they're human spirits, but they started talking about names and people like they lived here. Now there's so many deaths around the house since 1771. So they started, it was to a bare minimum, and it was like, okay, we got this. So every renter that we had, moved out. So finally, what brings us up to now was in 2022. Our last renter moved out, and I says, "You know what? I'm done, guys. I'm getting older. I can't keep going next door, patching sheetrock, fixing the house up. I said, you know what? I know we need the money, but I said, I'm done. I'm going to shut down next door." I said, maybe we turn it into a craft room for Mom. Maybe I bring my tools in and I turn it into a workshop. I said, I don't want to go through this renter stuff no more. So a friend of ours, her name was Rose. She used to work with Bob. She came over one day because I wanted to see, if there's any activity going on. So she had, oh my God, Father, I'm going to get his name mixed up. You might know him. He's out of Texas. Father Reuben, that's his name, Father Reuben, on standby. And she came over and she got some activity. And I think she had flashbacks of when she was younger with Bob in the house. She got scared, called Father Ruben. He did a prayer, and she said, "You know what, guys?" She goes, "Everybody knows who you are." She goes, that's when Mackenzie said, "Why don't I turn it into something paranormal?" She said, "I don't know if there's anything out there like that at the time." And Rose said, "You know what? Everybody knows you." She goes, "That would be a great little business for you. And Dad, you can teach me all about business and things like that."
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "What do you think?" I'm like, "Nah." I said, that's a crazy idea. Now, what I didn't realize, Bishop Long, is that there was a paranormal community, because when we got involved, we didn't know. There wasn't that many people out there. And it was like, all of a sudden, seems like since COVID, it exploded. Everybody's a paranormal investigator now.
Right,
I'm probably going to get a lot of people upset because I'm very straightforward, and that's the military in me. So many people have became mediums. I mean, so many people are out there. And so when we opened the doors, we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And then all of a sudden, we found another very, very bad word. It was called paranormal drama. If you didn't go with the flow, they attacked. Yeah. So we, over the course of all this time, but what we have done, this is how we realize a lot of stuff is when this stuff was going on. Tell me if I'm talking too fast or we don't have enough time.
Yeah, we're running out of time here. So were you able to get other clergy to come in and bless the home, and did everything calm down as far as the violent activity?
Yes, the violent activity has left.
Excellent.
We don't have that violent activity. That left with Reverend Farley and Jay Dodd back in 2015.
Okay. Good.
What we have now, we have people will pick up things on EVPs. People will catch black shadows. And there's a lot of activity on the staircase because so many people have met their despise on the staircase. And it doesn't surprise me that there is still spirits hanging around the old staircase. So people will pick up people walking halfway up the stairs, or they'll hear something thunking down the stairs. We had recently a team come up. It was very interesting. They own a large equipment company, a paranormal equipment company, and they wanted to come out and they wanted us to be part of it as a live feed. And so we're like, okay, you know what? This might be kind of interesting. We don't really go on that many, investigations. And it came alive. I mean, not violently, but the spirits came out and they got names. They got those stick figures from the SLX camera type of things. Mm-hmm. And they had communication. And that was really interesting. And that made me think, you know what? When we die, I like I said, I believe in Jesus. I believe that we're going to go to heaven. And, we talked, I think one time before, I'm not going to get into it about being saved, but we had a conversation about that one time about how I felt about being saved. But I started realizing, you know what, that these spirits, when you die, if you linger on here, you know what, they had a life, because as I started to uncover, as I started digging deep, because a famous author wrote a book about us, and we started digging deep, and then I started finding newspaper articles about some of the famous people that lived here. And I said, my God, I said, they had a life just like us. They lived here, they grew old, they died, some died way before their times. And we uncovered so much amazing history.
So when you go to this location, when you go in this home, do you ever feel like you did when this evil, this demonic evil was there? Do you ever feel that now, or do you feel like, there are some people that just don't believe in ghosts. They say that ghosts do not exist. I disagree completely. I not only as someone who's investigated thousands of locations in 35 years, I can tell you, not everything is demonic. It's just not. No matter, I fundamentally disagree with people who say everything is demonic. No, it's not. No, it is not. No. And I say that as an investigator, as a clergyman, as an exorcist. It's simply not true. The data does not show that. So I believe that certainly human spirits exist, and it sounds like to me that you guys are capturing, paranormal activity in the home. Yep. I think it's important. People ask me about paranormal investigators who you need to have cases worked. You've got to have the experience. You have to. One thing you never, ever want to do, if you're a paranormal investigator and a team, and you want to eventually work demonic cases, maybe for a church or for an exorcist, well, you have to work cases. You have to get boots on the ground, because anybody can read about paranormal investigating. That doesn't make you an investigator. So, like, for example, with the Enfield House, people who go and investigate, they gather the information, they put all the tools together, they get all that stuff. That is really fantastic as far as the training. At the same time, they also fully understand the dangers of investigating. I'm not going to preach that paranormal investigating has absolutely no worries at all. No, it's not true. That is simply not true. When you are investigating the paranormal, anything could happen. And so in order to get the experience, learn the equipment, how does it work? How do you navigate the equipment? You have to investigate. You have to.
Yep.
You don't want to start. The last thing you want to do. You want a location for what?
No, go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead. And it's true. What you're saying is 100% true. That's why what we do is when we tell people we have them sign a waiver, we say no Ouija boards, no trying to direct conjuring something up, because we tell them if this entity comes back, there's no mercy for you. And people laugh. I said, no, don't. It's not a joke. The spirits here, they're human. But if you're going to stand here and ask for the devil to show himself, you know what? As tough as I am, I will not be anywhere near you. I'm going to be outside with my Bible praying to St. Michael, because I said, I'm not that stupid. I said, if you want to investigate the spirits, and enjoy the rich history of the house and that type of stuff. But you have people come in, and like you said, they do something on YouTube. They say, I'm an exorcist, and they act like that you're really like an idiot, and they don't understand. And when you tell them that we had some of the best in here, and they're like, no, I'm protected. And then, you know what? And then they do whatever they do, and then you hear about them, months later, they go someplace, and now they're being crucified by something.
It's very true, and good for you. As far the Ouija board is stupid, stay away from it. Any type of imitation, stay away from it. But it's like what I was saying is you have to have locations where there is not demonic activity, so you can investigate. You can see how the equipment works. That's the only way they're going to be able to do this. You have to determine, how does the equipment work? How do you go through it? How do you document everything? But the last thing you do, if you're a paranormal investigating team and you truly want to work, perhaps you feel like you're being called to serve, in the demonology field, in your first case, don't take demonic cases. That's dumb. That makes no sense whatsoever. That is irresponsible on all levels. You don't do that. You go to locations that do not have demonic activity, that you can look at the equipment, see how it works, gather it together, go through all the evidence, because that takes a long time. But what you don't want to do is, if you're a paranormal team and you have very little experience under your belt, you don't say, well, let's go to a place that has demonic activity. Why in the world would you do this? You're not prepared for that. So that's what I'm saying. You have to edge into this slowly, so you can learn the equipment, get the techniques down, and then, and only then, when you have all that information and you're prepared, you have clergy involved who can help you through these cases, you got some training involved, then you can slowly move into some cases that are a little bit more scary. But the last thing you do, you do not just jump in the ocean full of sharks and say, okay, we're going to just go swim with them. No, because you're going to get bit. You're in over your head. You're in over your head. So we're unfortunately fresh out of time. Let me ask you, how can people reach you?
That's a good question, because like I said, my daughter runs the business here. I help her out telling stories. You can reach us. We have right now we're redoing our webpage, but you can contact us through Facebook, through the 1771 Enfield House, and we also have another Facebook page called The Haunting in Enfield, Connecticut. And if you message us, private message us, we'll tell you what the rates are. We let paranormal investigators investigate overnight from 7 to 7. I think Mackenzie's changing that up now. We also have seasoned paranormal investigators that come in and they do lectures.
That's good.
We wanted, well, we actually had a priest, but he's no longer with us. He was going to do a course on the dangers of the demonic. Yeah. So we have something going on all the time, at the house. Just got to kind of follow us and see what we got planned. Last year, we actually had a Christmas party here where Santa Claus and Krampus came, and people had a good time. So we're always doing something, but we're always, being safe. When I tell people if something happens, I'll tell them right now. I said, you know what? Even though I like running a business, I even tell Mackenzie if something happens, this entity comes in, we're shutting it down.
Good for you.
We can get it.
And if that happens, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help out in any way that I can, because we have to keep people safe at all costs. And I think you're doing it the right way. And I appreciate you saying that, because I get really frustrated with places. They know darn well that they have violent activity in their locations, and they're inviting people to come into their home or location and investigate. That is irresponsible. I will never support that. It is dangerous. It is wrong. There are serious consequences. It is reckless, and I appreciate you saying that. So that tells me a lot about your ethics and morals, because a lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people would say, "Oh, good, this entity has come back, so let's bring as many people as we possibly can and rake that money in." That is irresponsible and it's reckless, and that's very well said.
Yeah, no, because that's like bringing sheep to a slaughterhouse. That would be awful.
Amen.
So,
well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us on this. You have been fantastic. A lot of information, and I feel we haven't even touched 10%.
Yeah, no, we haven't even touched the surface yet.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being with us. Yeah, it's already an hour into it. So normally we do 45 minutes, but I tell you what, it was so fascinating. The location is fascinating. So thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm grateful to have us on.
Yep. All right. Have a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
All right, everybody. So I'll disconnect there with the Enfield House. That was very cool. Yeah, I wanted to explain. The reason is I read the bio in the very beginning of the Enfield House in England was to compare the two, because a lot of people get that confused. And so that's what I was like, this is the England bio. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Enfield in Connecticut. And so there's two complete different locations. But this is really serious. And I can't stress this enough. If you're a paranormal investigator, and if you truly feel that you are called to serve and to work demonic cases, number one, understand that it is a ministry. This is a ministry. If you don't understand that, stay away from it. Number two, this is a calling. If you are working demonic cases because you're wanting excitement on a Saturday night, you're going to pay a very heavy price, and it's not worth it. Now, people say to me all the time, I've worked cases, all blah, 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 blah. Nothing has ever happened. And I tell them all the time, yet. Their demonic entities are opportunists, and they will wait for the best time to attack. When you're lonely and you're depressed, your wife or your husband leaves you, you lose your job, you're suffering from depression, they will show up, and they will show up with a vengeance. And a lot of times people forget, they do things and they work these cases, and, they may get some exciting cases or exciting evidence, and they go on YouTube or whatever social media platform, and they're getting all the views, and it's exciting, and they're just I'm seeing a lot of this on social media. I'm seeing young people going on social media and investigating some places that are no joke. And they're screaming, and they're carrying on, and they're getting all, I cannot tell you how many times I have seen teams completely fall apart and lives fall apart. I've been in the paranormal field. The first time I investigated was 35 years ago. Now, I've been in the field for 25 years. I have seen a lot in 25 years. I cannot tell you how many demonologists I've seen come and go. How many demonologists I've talked to and multiple times told them, you've got to have a prayer life. This has to be it is a calling. It is a ministry. It's not secular. This is theological. And oh, yeah, whatever. And their whole lives fall apart. Man, if I could write a book. I could easily write a book just in 25 years of the amount of teams and individuals' lives that I've seen completely fall apart by working demonic cases. It's a dime a dozen. And I'm telling you now, as God is my witness, mark my words. The people that you are watching now on social media, going to these demonic locations and capturing this amazing evidence and getting all these followers, I give you my word. Watch what happens. That is the God's honest truth. I've seen it time and time again. And there's a lot of people that like to do this because it's an adrenaline rush. The difference between watching a movie and this is watching a movie, you can turn it off and go about your day. But this type of field, this type of ministry, there is no off button. And this is not a movie. So this is where nightmares come into reality. And people may, again, they say to me all the time, oh, it's dramatic. It's not. Okay, fine. You know, if you think it's dramatic, that's fine. But I will be there to say, I told you so. This is a ministry. It is a special calling. God calls people to do this ministry. If you're not called to do it, leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Stay away from it. Just don't get involved. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But that, you know, you can only do so much. You can only say so much before people are like, okay, whatever. I'm not their parent, but I am teaching people, and I will continue to teach people about the dangers of getting involved in this ministry, the dangers of getting involved in paranormal investigating. There are dangers with it. Look, I knew I was reading books in demonology when I was 9 years old. So I knew I wanted to be a priest when I was 5. So for me, this was always, it's just my DNA. It's who I am. I didn't know why I loved books on demonology. I didn't know. I just knew that I was so drawn to it. And now as a clergy, I understand that this is a part of my ministry. And so as laity, remember, you guys are laity. Paranormal investigators, you're laity. There's a difference between a demonologist and an exorcist. Let me make that clear. A demonologist is not necessarily an exorcist. So a demonologist can be an exorcist. An exorcist is a demonologist. But a demonologist is a person who studies demonology and who has a calling to serve the church to work demonic cases. It is sanctioned by the church to work these cases. And so laity can do this, but in doing that, you put yourself in danger, because this is something that if you're not prepared for it, and if you don't know what to look for, then you make the mistakes of saying, I'm so angry and nothing's happening, do something to me. And then once you do that, that's it. That's it. You've lost. Or I many times I've had people go to locations that they shouldn't have gone to, and they're calling me on the phone and they're screaming, we need you right now. Get over here. Somebody has gone through extreme trauma. They've been bit, scratched. There was let me tell you how dangerous this is. So we went to the Sally House, the team, many years ago. And one of the investigators, who was a demonologist, understood the dangers, and we were going to validate if activity was still present. We knew the owners, the Pickmans, and we just wanted to see if it was dangerous for any paranormal team to come in there. That was the goal. That was the objective. Is there anything there that is still present that can cause people harm or any of it? Because we wanted to let everybody know. So that was the objective that we had. And a demonologist was there with us. So the team was in a room, and everybody was doing their investigation and putting everything together. And we heard there's a blood curdling scream in the other room. The whole team ran into this room, and the demonologist that was working with the team had a gold crucifix, a cross necklace. It had embedded into his chest. It was a 3rd-degree burn. So it was as if someone had put a flame torch on the back of that crucifix and shoved it into his chest. And when he ripped the shirt off, you could clearly see that it had embedded into the skin. And when he was pulling it, he was, you get the picture. Even to this day, that is still there. And we actually have caught a picture. Bishop David Price caught a picture of this demonic figure that was at 100% right outside this window. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is the most profound picture I've ever seen. And so that was the objective was met in that, okay, we have clear evidence that there is something very, very evil here. And that was the goal. And so people, I don't know why people continue to go to this location, but they do. This is a location. The Sally House is not a location that I would encourage anybody to go to that is not prepared, because that is dark. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you. Someone's offering gifts to the ministry, so thank you. In the same manner, the Gates of Hell Cemetery. The Gates of Hell Cemetery in Kentucky, I've told people, stay away. Don't go to the location. You go to the location, you are asking for trouble, and you're going to find it. The Gates of, and I did a documentary on it, and I put it on the YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you can watch it. The Gates, as I'm talking, I'm kind of scrolling to see if I can find this picture. I don't know if I have it with me here on the phone or not. But the Gates of Hell Cemetery is a location, and I've talked about this many times. It is one of the very few locations that I've ever been to in my life where it is completely different at night. It is not the same location at night. It is completely 100% different. During the day, you feel there's a presence there, but at night, it absolutely comes alive. And it's not I will not go there at night. There's no reason for me to go there at night. None at all. And so for me, I stay away from it because again, that's the place where I saw that creature or whatever it was in that tree, me and 3 other people. I'm trying to find this thing. I wish I could locate it, but I have 4,000 pictures that I'm working on, cases and everything else that I'm working on at the same time. But anyway, if I don't find it soon, I'll eventually pull it up and I can show you one day. But this was one of the most, the Sally House is not a place that I would encourage anybody to go to. It is a dangerous location, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth putting yourself in that situation. Yeah, I'm not going to find it here, but I'll look at it later. Okay. So there you go. Well, thank you. So I'm going to turn chat on for everybody on TikTok, and let's see how long that'll last, and we'll go from there. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain some of them. I do have a lot of articles that that's pretty cool. So speaking of a location, now Willie still believes there's something. Willie Windwalker, he's a friend of mine. He's a shaman. Hello. He believes there's something still evil there. Yeah, Annie, there's not a whole lot we don't know about what happened, how it started there. It could have a pre-existing situation, and I think that's probably what it was. Now, see, there's a lot of questions regarding ghosts and demons. I've been to many locations that had paranormal activity. Absolutely, 100% was not demonic. 100%. It's just not. There is no guessing. There is no guessing whatsoever. When you go to a location and it is demonic, Well, certainly, Kenneth. But at the same time, it also says in Scripture, do not put your Lord your God to test. So what people will do quite often is they'll go to locations and then they'll say, well, I'm just going to call upon the name of Jesus. Okay, but yeah, you put yourself in that situation. And so therefore, it's something that you need to be very careful and stay away from. Yeah, I don't know. Have you guys been to the Bell Witch? Willie Windwalker. He's been there. Well, and he's absolutely convinced that there's something still evil there. Brightside, Annalise McKell, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Her name was Annalise McKell. She's German. And she described them as ghastly figures. She actually suffered from grand mal epilepsy. And unfortunately, they really didn't have, in her time, it wasn't really very well treated. And many times they would put them in a psychological ward. And in her case, that's what happened because they didn't know how to treat it. And in this ward, she had extreme bouts of demonic attacks. So it would interact with her it would speak to her, she would hear them, and then she would see them. And this is actually when she was in the psychological ward, that's when she started describing being able to actually see them. So that's and we'll do a presentation on that case and John Doe eventually again. I've done it before on John Doe, or basically it's The Exorcist and Annalise McKell. She believes that she is absolutely convinced that she had apparitions of Mary. Yep. Yeah, Alex, there's a lot of people believe that they can. And I have had several cases. So there's a good question about can demons take on human form? So let me tell you this story. Hold on, hang tight for a second. There was a mom who, when she was younger, she did things that she shouldn't have done. She got very, very heavy into some bad stuff and dark magic. I mean, just really bad stuff. But then she became a mom and she kind of turned her life around. She didn't want any part of that anymore. And she had a child, a little boy, and the little boy kicked the ball out in the street. And unfortunately, a car had hit him and he passed away. She was obviously distraught. The family was distraught. That's obvious. They immediately then began having strange paranormal activity in the house. You know, his toys would come on and his balls would bounce around on their own. And within not very long at all, the mother went from complete and total weeping and wailing to laughing and smiling. And in his room, you know, she would close the door. She lived with her parents at that time. And she would close the door and, you know, they would talk and, you know, she would talk as if he was there. And so they asked me to come and investigate because something wasn't right. Now, it is, from my experience, obviously people grieve differently. And my immediate thought was, obviously, that she's in some form of psychosis. And so we go to this home. We document that there was clear paranormal activity, without question, EVPs, laughter. We had a child's voice on there. And so she was in the room, and the door was barely creaked. I mean, just open just a little bit. And I had at that time I was a camera, and I snapped the picture quietly, no flash, because I didn't want to distract her. I didn't want to be rude, or I want to find out what was going on. But she was on his bed, and she looked like she was holding something, and she was just talking to where, like she was talking to her son. And we got the film developed back in the day. There is a full body apparition of what appeared to look like her son. It was full body. But what was very eerie about this is the way she was holding him. His face was right at the door. Clearly, I mean, it was 100%. There were no eyes. There were no eyes. There was a distortion in the face, and I knew what was going on. There was no question what was happening. That was really hard, and because she had lost her son, and now she thinks that she has her son again, but yet it is not. It is an apparition that a demonic has taken the form to break the intellect and will down of this mom. And we had to actually get to her some deep spiritual and psychological counseling, because not only did she experience the loss of her son the first time, but then she had to learn that she was not dealing with her son the second time. And that was hard. That was hard. But that's what I'm talking. That's what demonic entities will do. They don't care. They don't care that she lost her son. As a matter of fact, they saw that as a great opportunity. And they took that opportunity to show themselves. And it was complete. That was a hard case. That was a very difficult case. And it took her a good 10 years to finally get to the point where she was able to maintain any type of sanity. So that's, she still struggles. And I do speak to her occasionally. But she still struggles with it, and understandably so. But this is what we're talking about. And when I tell people to stay away from these things, because they will do everything and anything. Nothing is off the table. Nothing, including the use of a child that passed away. That's a perfect opportunity for them. So, yeah, she did. Oh yeah, she did, Faith. She turned her life around when she became a mom, and she didn't want any part of that. But she was pretty heavy into some things that she shouldn't have done. And because of that activity, there came with consequences, and that was the consequences. So that was a difficult case. So, yeah, I got to tell you something. And this is just for me. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to tell anybody else how they, in my perspective, in every single case that I have worked where there were ghost children, they were not ghosts at all. In every single case, it was demonic. Every case. Now, I'm not implying anything. I'm just telling you what my data is. So I just simply don't believe that that a child spirit would be lost or stuck, as people use that term here. I don't believe it. So she was practicing some dark stuff. She was practicing some dark stuff. I do believe pets do absolutely see them. I'm not a fan of. I don't. Yeah, I've never met this person, Bashar. I you know, there are some people that believe in Bashar, and some people do not. So each person has to make their own decision. So I've never met him. I've never sat down with him. I've never spoken to him, and so I don't know him. Yeah, guys, look, Masons. People talk about Masons all the time. I have friends that are Masons. If you're going to be a Mason because you want to learn some deep, dark magic secrets and all this other stuff, you're going to be sadly mistaken. If you join the Masons, then be prepared to do a lot of social work, a lot of community work, because the friends that I have that are Masons, they're not demonic. They don't worship Satan. They're very devoted Christians, and they do a lot of social work. So take that as it is. Yeah, I think what is the meaning when we dream of our loved ones? I think our loved ones absolutely can come to us, and no one is going to tell me otherwise. I know they can. I know that our loved ones can tell us and come back to us. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has happened to me. As a matter of fact, in every single exorcism, I perform 33 exorcisms on people who are truly possessed. Now, I work with psychiatrists and psychologists that offer psychological evaluations. So when I say documented, that's what I'm talking about. There is no ifs, ands, or buts that possession exists at all. But I am a firm believer. Some people, they don't. But I'm a firm believer that our loved ones can absolutely visit us. And in the 33 exorcisms that I performed, and every single time, right before I perform the exorcism, I will smell roses. And the reason being is when I was in the seminary, my aunt was terminal, and I couldn't get to her because at the time I didn't have a car. There was no way for me to get to her, and she was in the process of passing. And I remember her telling me, when you smell roses, I'm there, because she loved roses. And I have no oil that smells like roses at all, but in every time there will be the whole room that just smells like roses. And so, and that's in all 33 exorcisms that I've performed, everyone. So I do believe that our loved ones can come to us and let us know that they're okay. But here's what you need to stop doing, guys. And I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful to anybody. I respect everyone's rights to believe in whatever they wish to believe. That's their right. If you believe that the moon is whatever, that's your right. I don't have to agree with you. Stay away. Stay away from Ouija boards. Stay away from seances. Stay away from look, you don't need anyone to tell you if your loved one is okay. Many people are so worried that their loved one is doing okay, and then you do things that you maybe shouldn't do, like playing with the Ouija board. That is something that is very dangerous, and just stop. And people will say, well, I played with them for 20 years and nothing has ever happened. And I always say to them, yet. Your loved ones are okay. Your loved ones are okay. Oh, thank you, Yolanda. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for the gifts. I appreciate that. So just stop. You don't need to, don't get involved with this type of stuff. The Chosen, I didn't like what they did on season 4. Okay, let me make this clear. The Ouija boards are dangerous, and here's why. Do I believe in Satan? I know Satan exists. But let me say something very quickly. Hold on. Let me make this clear. I say this to you guys constantly, not because I'm bragging, because there's a point. As clergy, as a bishop, I don't receive a paycheck. In the United States Old Catholic Church, we receive no paycheck, no stipend, no retirement, no housing, no food, no nothing, not a penny, not a penny. We fund our own ministry with our own money. Now listen to me. I have a doctor of ministry, a master of divinity, a master of education, and a master of business, a bachelor of communication and journalism, and an associate of philosophy. I do this ministry for free. I do not charge. Never have, never will. In 25 years, I fund it with my own money and I put it on my own credit card to help people. And just recently, finally, I had a few folks who help. And I say this to you as God is my witness. If possession did not exist, I would do something else with my time. I would not be here, with all due respect, and have devoted 25 years of my life to this ministry if I had 1 ounce of doubt. You see, if I was charging $15,000 in exorcism, then you could easily say, aha, there's ulterior motives for you being involved in this. And you would have a justified argument. Let's say I was charging $5,000 in exorcism. You could easily say, there's your motive. If I started charging $5,000 for an exorcism right now, I guarantee you I could easily make 6 figures a year. I guarantee, as I have over 21,000 emails, people begging me to come to the home right now. I could easily make 6 figures, but I charge nothing. Not a penny. The reason is I tell you that is because there is no ulterior motive. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not charging people money, paying for it out of my own pocket, because I know possession exists, because I've seen it. And so therefore, because there is no ulterior motive, and I tell you my education to let you know I'm an educated person. So I've devoted 25 years of my life to this ministry because of what I've seen. And I'm not going to ever tell anybody that possession doesn't exist, because it does. I have seen a contortion of the face. I have seen the eyes go solid black. I've seen the screams and the pitches, the multiple pitches at once. I've been in a situation where the demonic will, it's called throwing your voice. Throwing the voice is to disorient you. It's like 8D. What I mean by that is when a person is possessed, the demon will scream, and you'll hear it from behind you, over here, and around, and it disorients you. That's why you have to silence the voice. In the right, you actually have to silence it. So I tell you this, not because I'm here to try to scare you. I tell you this because I'm trying to educate you so that you guys don't fall into the trap of getting involved in these locations to where one day you have to call somebody like me, and then I have to tell you, I'm sorry, I can't help you at the moment because I have to raise funds to get to your home. The hardest part of this job, the hardest part of this job is not battling demons. That's not the hardest part. The hardest part of this ministry is to have to tell families while they're sobbing on the phone and begging me to help them that I can't get to them right now because I can't afford to travel out to California, and people don't want to take cases. That's the hardest part, is to hear the the sadness, the begging. That's the part that takes a toll, not the demons. Demons are cowards. They're cockroaches. They're trolls. It is having to tell family, I can't get to you right now. That's hard. That's why I am blessed that I'm able to have a network of paranormal teams who are experienced, who are willing to put themselves in danger for the greater good, and to work these cases so that they can gather all the evidence, present it to me, and then I look at it and say, okay, now we have to we have to amplify this. We have to we need to start fundraising now. Because Judy Ann has helped me tremendously to get to people's homes, but Judy Ann can't take, help in every case. And Sister Jennifer has helped. I mean, we can only do so much. So that's the hardest part. But I believe that if God wants me there, he'll put me there. And that's what I've always found to be true. For those of you who are listening to this presentation on podcast, we're going to say goodnight to you guys. I want to remind everybody that tonight, it goes by TikTok. Stay with me. I'll be with you guys in a moment. Tonight, we're going to come right back on air in 1 hour. We will be back on air for our night prayer. So join us tonight at 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we go live at 10 p.m. And then Saturday, we have our open mic night show. And then Sunday, don't forget, we have Bible study at 8 p.m. Eastern. So that's the schedule for tonight. But for those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and KGRDB Radio, remember, I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.